Today, a tense exchange on Capitol Hill is raising new questions about military protocol, the handling of classified information, and how public officials communicate sensitive details during active operations.
This is a gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Molton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Hegseth, I'd like to clarify a few important details for the record. When you texted the launch time for F-18s going into combat over enemy territory facing anti-aircraft missiles on an unclassified signal chat, did that launch time come from Central Command, yes or no?
I know what you're referring to, and there were no
It's a very simple question. Did it come from? It's a very
or-
simple question. Did it come from Central Command?
Well, in this committee, no way in which I communicate or what I communicate on a successful strike is something that I would share.
So you can't even identify the combatant command under which this operation occurred?
Well, everybody knows the
Okay, so everyone
command
knows
under
the
which
Central
it occurred.
Command. So when Central Command sent you this information, did they send it on a classified system or an unclassified system?
Well, as you know, having served yourself, any way that the Secretary of Defense communicates or provides information in and of itself is classified and not to be discussed.
So what was the classification marking of the launch time when it was sent to you? Because DoD regulations require information on classified systems to be marked.
What was the classification mark time?
Yeah, what was the classification marking? Because
Again,
DoD
classifications of any information in an ongoing operation that was successful are not things that would be disclosed in a public forum. You know that.
You can very well disclose whether or not it was classified. It's not classified to disclose whether or not it was classified. And in fact, DoD regulations state that any classified information has to be labeled with its classification. Was it classified secret or top secret?
What's not classified is that it was an incredibly successful mission against the Houthis.
Okay, so it was classified. So are you trying to say that the information was unclassified?
I'm not
Okay,
trying to
that's
say
what
anything.
I thought. You're not saying that. So you took classified information from Central Command that had a classification marking on it, because that's what's required by DoD regulations, and you put it on an unclassified system. So we're going to get a report in a few days from the DoD Inspector General. And if the DoD Inspector General finds what is pretty obvious, both to you smiling there in the witness seat and to all of us up here, that the information was, in fact, classified, do you plan to take any accountability for that?
As I pointed out at the time,
You said that accountability is back. Does that not apply to you?
as I said at the time, Congressman, there were no names, targets, locations, units, routes, sources, methods, no classified information.
Okay, so if it comes back that it is classified, will you take accountability or not?
As
We've
I
already
said,
established, you've already admitted that it was classified because everything you get from CENTCOM is classified. You just explained that to me. That's how you justified not answering the question.
not what I said. I didn't confirm any classification or
Okay, so if it is
what
confirmed,
I know is that
will you take
everything I
accountability?
share, everything I talk about,
Mr.
as
Secretary,
of
does
Defense,
accountability apply to you or not?
is classified whether I talk or not.
Does it apply to you or not?
Does what apply to me or not?
Accountability. You said accountability is back at the Secretary. at the
And you know
Pentagon.
what? The Houthis were held accountable for shooting at our
I'm
ships
just asking if it applies
very
to you.
successfully.
I'm not asking about the
previous
Houthis.
administration let our ships get shot at, and nothing was done about it. And thankfully, because of the skill and courage of our troops on
I'm
the
just
battlefield,
asking about
we
I
actually
reclaim my
put them
time.
in a place
I
where
reclaim
they
my time.
called for a ceasefire.
I claim my time. I'm just asking if accountability applies to you. It's a very simple question. We use leadership by example.
Of course, unlike, I serve at the pleasure of the president like everybody else does.
So it only applies to the president, not to you.
I serve at the pleasure.
You talked about the success of the Houthi operation. About how much money did it cost? How much money did you spend on missiles shooting at the Houthis?
Well, you'd have to compare that with what it costs.
I'm just asking how much did it cost?
divert our shipping lanes around.
I'm told
the
it's
sea.
several $100 million, maybe close to $1 billion. How many U.S.-flagged commercial ships have transited the Red Sea since your so-called successful operation?
Well, thankfully, unlike the previous administration,
The answer
we
is
had
zero.
military vessels transit.
No, I
around
didn't ask
just
about
this
military
week.
vessels. I
Well, which
asked
would
about
be the
commercial
precursor
vessels.
for
How many
civilian and
commercial vessels?
transit,
It's been several
thankfully.
weeks. How many commercial vessels, U.S. flagged, have
Well,
transited the
would
Red
you, Mr. Congressman, put civilian ships
The
through
questions
dam
are not to
for
me,
military
Mr. Secretary,
ships?
they're to you.
We have responsibly put military
The answer
ships
is zero.
through first.
I reclaim my time. How many generals and admirals have you fired?
I don't know the exact number, but
You don't know the number. It's 8. Can you explain why any of them were fired? Like, just explain why was
They all serve at the pleasure of the president, and I think
No, I'm just asking you why.
General Kane is a great example
I'm just
of
asking
a
you
leader
why.
that we
I think
need
you
at
probably
this
learned
time.
at Princeton what why means. Why did you fire him?
They serve at the pleasure of the president, and we
Why
want better
did you
representation
fire
in
him?
each and every of those.
You can't
each and
explain
every
why
one
you
of those
fired any of
places.
them?
Gentlemen's time's expired. Chair, and I
The moment unfolded during a House Armed Services Committee hearing when Congressman Molton of Massachusetts pressed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth over an incident involving an unclassified signal chat and the launch time of F-18s headed into combat. If you're just joining us, make sure to subscribe because every day we break down the stories behind the headlines with context you won't find elsewhere. What made this exchange so charged was not simply the question of whether a message was sent. It was the issue of classification, chain of command, and responsibility. Congressman Molton asked the secretary a straightforward question. Did the launch time he texted originate from U.S. Central Command? A question that, in normal circumstances, a Secretary of Defense would answer directly. Instead, Hegseth dodged and deflected, refusing to confirm the source and insisting that anything he communicates about an operation is inherently classified. That's a critical point to understand because in the Department of Defense, it isn't enough for something to be treated as classified. It must be marked, logged, and handled according to strict regulations designed to prevent exactly the kind of exposure Molton was probing. What viewers should understand is that classification isn't just a label, it is an entire system of accountability. When a document, message, or operational detail is classified, the government must maintain a paper trail. And that means if a launch time was sent to the secretary, it either came with a classification marking or it didn't. That is why Molton continued pressing. He wasn't trying to pry open operational secrets. He was asking about procedure, something any official should be able to answer without compromising mission. If you're finding this breakdown useful, remember to subscribe so you stay ahead of these complex issues. As the questioning continued, the tension escalated. Molton pointed out that Hegseth himself had just implied that everything he receives from Central Command is classified, an argument the secretary used to avoid discussing the operation. Yet when Molton followed that logic to its conclusion, asking whether Hegseth had effectively taken classified information and moved it onto an unclassified platform, Hegseth denied making that claim at all. The contradiction is what made this moment notable. Viewers should understand why lawmakers react so sharply to situations like this. In the military, the mishandling of classified information can lead to compromised missions, jeopardized personnel, and even international escalation. The rules are strict for a reason, and Congress is responsible for ensuring they are followed at every level, especially by those in charge of national defense. If you appreciate this deeper look into the stakes and context, go ahead and subscribe so you never miss an analysis. The exchange reached a climax when Molton asked the most direct question of all. If the forthcoming Inspector General report finds that the information was in fact classified when Hegseth shared it, will the Secretary accept responsibility? Hegseth did not commit to an answer, repeating instead that no names, no routes, no units, no targets were discussed. But classification does not depend on how sensitive something feels in the moment. It depends on how the Department of Defense marks and handles information. A launch time, even without accompanying details, can reveal patterns, vulnerabilities, and operational intent, which is why procedures matter so deeply in military communications. These rules exist not only to protect national security, but to ensure accountability within the chain of command. If you want analysis that goes beyond the headlines and helps you understand the why behind these political moments, make sure you subscribe for more. In the days ahead, the Inspector General's findings may shed light on whether the Secretary adhered to protocol or crossed a line that uniformed service members would face serious consequences for. And that is the heart of this hearing. It wasn't just about a text message. It was about whether those leading the nation's defense follow the same standards they expect from those who serve beneath them. Be sure to subscribe so you can stay updated as the story develops and understand both the political dynamics and the national security implications at play.